Hello, and welcome to another edition of Coffee Talk with immigration attorney Brian D. Lerner. In this particular episode, I would like to address some of the fears about what is going on in the United States with these immigration raids and immigration coming to your door and so forth, and ICE putting the fear of God into everybody here who is not a U.S. citizen. And I get lots of clients that come into my office, and I mean we're talking all over the spectrum of people who've been here for a year and people who've been here for 30 years. I had an old couple come into my office, uh, the other day, and they wanted basically to know how they could get their grandkids taken care of because they thought that when ICE comes to their door the next day, they're going to be back into their home country. So, while yes, the ICE raids have picked up, and yes, while ICE seems to be doing things that they may or may not be able to do. And while I've heard many stories about how ICE officials will say things that simply are not true, um, I want to give you some information as to what are your rights. For example, if ICE visits your home, because right now I can guarantee you that the vast majority of people that are watching this and the vast majority of people who are subject to ICE raids believe that they have no rights, that they have to sign whatever ICE puts in front of them, and they have to talk and answer everything ICE asks them, and they have to open the door and let them in. And that is simply not true. What makes the United States such a great country, even with what we are going through today, is that everybody has rights. Even the people who are racists, and even the people who are yelling, "Get the immigrants out of the U.S." Everybody has rights inside the United States. It's not like going to another country where the second you step in there, you have zero rights and you're at the absolute mercy of the government. No, in the U.S., you do have rights. So I want to explain what some of those rights are. So, first of all, we'll talk about ICE raids to your home. Now, you do not have to open the door. Okay, there is no right for ICE to force you to open the door unless they have an actual search warrant signed by a judge. Now, that is a search warrant signed by a federal judge. That is not, and I repeat, that is not a warrant for your arrest or for your deportation and so forth. That's different. That's issued administratively, not judiciously by a judge. So, first things first, if they claim, and if ICE claims that they have a search warrant, still do not open the door. Tell them you want to see it. Either they can put it under the door, or open the drapes and have them put it to the window so that you can see that, number one, it's a search warrant, it's signed by the judge, and it is for your name at your place. If your name is not there or it's spelled incorrectly, if your address is not there or it's spelled incorrectly, or if the judge did not sign it, then you can tactfully let them know that they do not have a valid search warrant, and therefore you are not required to open the door. Okay. Now, one thing that you have to be aware of is that ICE, which is Immigration and Customs Enforcement, they are not there to help you. You're not their friend. They're not doing anything to make your life easier. They're doing everything to make their life easier. So, when they ask you something which requires your consent, you can be nice about it, but don't give your consent. Obviously, if they say, hello, ma'am, can we come in? And you say yes, you have given them consent, and they don't need a search warrant from that point because you've agreed to let them in your house. Same thing when you're walking down the street and they say, Mister, do you mind if we search you? You say, and you're thinking, that what happens is a lot of people think, well, if I say no, they're going to think I'm hiding something, so I'm going to say yes. No, don't think like that. You just say no. I do not consent to a search. Now, if they believe you have a weapon, they're allowed to, give you a pat down in order to determine if you have a weapon or not. But other than that, they can't just search you. And same thing if you're driving a car. If you're driving a car and they say, "Do you mind if we look in your trunk?" You say no. And again, you can be tactful. You go, "Officer, I know that a search warrant is required, and I am not giving my consent to search in my trunk." So don't give voluntary consent to anything that they ask for. It's not going to help you. Okay. And you have rights that protect you in the United States. You need to use them. Okay. They being ICE cannot trample all over your rights in order to try to get their deportation numbers up. You have rights to fight your case. You have rights to not let them in your house and so forth. So that's that. Now, um, you recall what we said about the search warrant, okay? You also have the right to remain silent. You do not have to answer their questions. So, for example, ICE, gets you and says, "Where are you from? When did you enter the U.S.? You're a citizen of what country?" And so forth. You don't have to answer any of that. You say, I elect and choose my right to be silent, and I want to see my attorney. Okay, because again, it is the immigration attorney that's going to protect you, not the ICE official who's just trying to get you to admit to things. And, unfortunately, what I've seen over the years is ICE will actually prepare a document, supposedly saying everything that you said, and just magically it admits to every single thing to make their case just so perfect. So, in order to make sure that you are not having words being placed in your mouth and that you are not admitting something you don't understand. You just simply say, I am electing my right to remain silent and I'd like to see my attorney. So make sure they understand that and hear that you have to say out loud that you are electing your right to remain silent so they know that that's what you're doing. um, you can also even have a know your rights card, which, frankly, people come to my office, they'll get a card sort of like a credit card, and it lets them know what their rights are, and they can show that to the officer. And the officer will then know that they know their rights, and perhaps they'll stop pushing in areas that they shouldn't, so that you get a proper trial in immigration court, so that you do not improperly sign some documents that give up your rights to fight your case and so forth. So, uh, and when you say you want to speak to a lawyer, you do have a right to speak to a lawyer. It's not like criminal law where you have a right to speak to a lawyer for free. One will not be appointed to you, but you do have a right to a lawyer. So there's what's called a G28. So if you see the immigration lawyer, what I do in my office is I give them a G28 that they can sign, and my office signs, that shows they have representation, and then the legal rights card. So they show both those things whenever ICE may come to their door, and then, if that's the case, they will. The ICE officer knows that they can't go any further, that they can't have you sign anything, that you have the right to speak to a lawyer so that your rights can be protected. So, in a nutshell, that is how you can protect yourself should it be necessary. And above all, do not sign anything. They can't force you to, no matter what they say. I mean, I've heard these stories about how they make it seem like, you have no rights and that you have to sign it, and that even if you don't understand the language, you have to sign the form, and you don't. You can be nice about it, say, oh, I'm sorry, my attorney told me I'm not supposed to sign anything, because the only thing they're going to want you to sign is a voluntary deportation paper, which makes their life easy, because then you've just given up all the rights that you have, and they can just put you on a plane and deport you. So don't sign. Okay? So don't open the door without a valid search warrant. Uh, State you want to remain silent. Don't give consent for a search if they don't have a search warrant. Don't sign anything, and state your right that you want to speak to an attorney. Okay, if you like the video, click like, subscribe. More on the coming videos.